Welcome back to Oulton Park for highlights of race 2 of the Formula 3 Cup. They're about to line up on the grid, and it will be once more Oulton Lloyd who will line up on pole position at the wheel of car number 12. Alongside him this time, though, is the number 10 car of George Line on the outside of the front row. Row 2 of the grid is number 11, Shane Kelly, and number 8, James Heffernan, who will hope to get the car off the line a little bit better than he did in race 1. And row 3 is number 4, Jacopo Sebastiani, alongside number 13, Tony Bishop. The fourth row is number 6, Mark Harrison, alongside 60, Malcolm Scott, and Stuart Wiltshire and Darryl Jones. And Robbie Watts is off the tail end of the field this time through. The lights go out. It's a good start from Oulton Lloyd. Slowly away, though, with Jacopo Sebastiani by the look of things. He's going to be jumped by the number 6 car of Mark Harrison and by Darryl Jones as well. So number 4 car of the London-based Italian very slowly away, but it is Oulton Lloyd that's gone through and taken up the lead of the race. George Lyne's hung on to second, and that car there, number 11, Shane Kelly, is there in third position as they're all safely through Cascades, bar one car which has had a spin coming out of Old Hall Corner. Unfortunately, that's Tony Bishop. We saw him have a spin in race number 1, which ultimately brought about the retirement of Mark Harrison following his spin into avoidance into the barriers. Well, Tony Bishop's got it all to do in this one. He's spun to the tail end of the field. Everybody else, though, is safely through and is already turning their way through the Shell Oil's hairpin here at Oulton Park. Jacopo Sebastiani, number 4 there, has now got the number 73 car of Darryl Jones right with him. Jacopo started 5th, Darryl Jones started 10th. They're absolutely together, just going to show the poor start for Jacopo, the great start for Darryl Jones, and also the fantastic start for Oulton Lloyd that propels him into the lead of the race. Shane Kelly slotted himself through into third place at this stage. He has got not that far behind him, though, the next of the runners, and as they turn their way out of Knickerbrook, that is James Heffernan, who is there in 4th position. So the top 4, as they were on the grid in reality, they've all maintained their grid position as they charge their way through Druids for the first time, with Oulton Lloyd looking to try and do what he did in race 1. Now that he's got the lead of the race, trying to build a margin and build an advantage between himself and the number 10 car in the hands of George Line, with Shane Kelly slotting himself through into third place at the wheel of the University of Wolverhampton prepared car. That is built, prepared, engineered by the students in the West Midlands, and is going well in the hands of the championship leader, albeit he had to settle in race number 1 of the weekend for the 2nd step of the podium. Is he going to have to settle for the 3rd step of the podium in race number 2? He'd dearly like a win, but he's got work to do here. You can see just how substantively drier it is. All of the cars are still largely on wet tyres by the look of things. There isn't the enormous ball of spray coming up, but it's still very damp here in Cheshire. And it might not be that much longer, though, before the cars that are on the wet tyres start to just try and seek out a little bit of moisture, because you can certainly see along what is Lakeside and up towards Island Bends that there is very little spray at all that's coming up. And of course, in the drying conditions, the blocks of tread on the wet tyres will start to move around. That will start to overheat the tyres. So we might see a few cars just ducking off onto the wet parts of the circuit to try and cool things down. Here comes James Heffernan in 4th place, the number 8 car, turning his way through Britain. So as over Hilltop comes our race leader. Still as they were, still Oulton Lloyd out front from George Line, then Shane Kelly, then James Heffernan. Further down through the order, it looks as though we've got some other squabbles going on. This is Mark Harrison, who is currently in 5th place. He's got Jacopo Sebastiani in 6th behind him, and Darryl Jones is not too far away as well. The black car with its red flash is number 73. So they turn their way out of his lots. The Omricon run car in the hands of Jacopo Sebastiani, looking to try and put under ever more pressure the man from Wiltshire, Mark Harrison, former sprint racer. He used to compete in the British Sprint Championship in a Formula 3000 car, did Mark Harrison, for a few years. He's now sticking his elbows out here. There you can see cars diving for the, as I suggested, the wet part of the circuit. So already conscious of the fact that the circuit is drying is James Heffernan, as Mark Harrison is under pressure from Jacopo Sebastiani, having a look at the inside. Both of these cars running on wet tyres, but it is still the man from Worcester that hangs on to the place, the London-based Italian. Jacopo Sebastiani in the Omricon run car has to still settle for 6th place. He might have another nibble here, though, on the run up towards what is Old Hall Corner, but it does look as though well under control is number 6, Mark Harrison, looking to try and put in a performance after what was a very unfortunate incident in race 1, where he had to avoid the spinning car of Tony Bishop and ultimately hit the wet grass, and, well, he was a passenger from there, really, wasn't he? And he has just about managed to hang on to 5th place. Sebastiani is not giving up his aspirations, though, to pick his pocket, given any opportunity. And as they now head up towards Shell Oil's corner, so round through Island Bend, Shell Oil's corner, that's somebody on the grass, and that, let's have a quick look, that was Robbie Watts, I think, recovering from a moment on the grass. We'll try and pick up on that. Here comes this squabble still for 5th position. And it is still Mark Harrison from the charging number 4 car of Sebastiani, his Volkswagen engined car. Here is the number 12 machine of Huell Lloyd. I think it might actually have been Huell Lloyd that had the grassy moment and has recovered. Yeah, that has dropped him further, hasn't it, into the clutches of George Line. So it was the race leader made a small mistake there and went onto the grass briefly. He built the advantage. He's had it whittled down as a result of that. Top four reasonably close to each other now. Still the Welshman, though, that leads. George Line, the man from Leicestershire, sitting there in what is second position. They're trying to put a lap on Tony Bishop's car by the look of things. George Line sneaks his way up the inside of the number 13 car of Tony Bishop. So he has already gone a lap down. Shane Kelly is going to be the next of those that will want to go through and past the car in the hands of the man from Whipstade. And is he going to be able to sneak through at Oulton corner? No, Tony Bishop not allowing Shane Kelly to go through as yet. And as they now head down the avenue, up towards Denton's and then through onto Cascade. Yet through goes Shane Kelly, so briefly delayed there, but he's now through and past and can concentrate his efforts fully on trying to close back up with those ahead once more, as he still lies there, the championship leader in third place. You can see, though, that Huell Lloyd has pulled out an advantage now between these two. He met the back marker, Tony Bishop, number 13 there, in exactly the right place and didn't lose a great deal of time. So Tony Bishop clearly no harm done following his spin at Old Hall corner. So he brought the car into the pits for it to be checked over. He was given the thumbs up by the team and is back out there and circulating, albeit a lap adrift. It's been a difficult weekend for him, hasn't it? What with that spin in race number 1 as well on the very first lap. And the man from Whipstade is now at the tail end of the field and a lap adrift in race number 2. Battle for second, though, is hotting up, isn't it? George Line is now being reeled in by Shane Kelly, who had lost time following the backmarker lappery. But it looks as though he's mounting a charge once more here onto the coattails of the man from Leicestershire. Hasn't found the key as yet to unlock second place. So as they turn their way out of Knickerbrook and start to climb back up Clay Hill towards what is Druids, see all of the time our race leader Huell Lloyd pulling away. You can see just how much the circuit is drying, and again Huell Lloyd there, the Welshman, moving from one side of the circuit to the other, trying to cool those tyres down. This race victory might all be possibly to do with how much tyre preservation and consideration you give them. If you keep pushing on the drying track, you might overheat the tyres to the point of which they absolutely are no good anymore, and I think that's what some of our drivers are potentially going to be considering here. They're going to have to move offline to cool these tyres down. Ever drying circuit. At the moment, though, it certainly looks as though George Line is having to concentrate fully on his mirrors, because Shane Kelly is within touching distance of second position as the two cars dive back downhill through Cascades and on towards Lakeside once more, but it's still the number 10 car in the hands of the man from Leicester, George Line, that is still ahead. And we've still got this fantastic fight going on for 5th and 6th place. We pick back up on it. Mark Harrison has been kept very busy by Jacopo Sebastiani, and as yet it still is the man from Worcester that's just ahead of the Italian. Sebastiani cannot as yet work out how the heck he's going to try and prize away 5th places from the clutches of Mark Harrison. So through Island Bend, back up towards Shell Oil's corner once more. It's still the red car, number 6 in the hands of Mark Harrison, just ahead of Jacopo Sebastiani, who has gone well so far this season in F3 Cup. Good to see him back next year, Jacopo. He's been a great addition to the championship in 2016. As they turn their way through Britons and then start to head over Hilltop once more, with Harrison just watching his mirrors, just checking where Jacopo is. He's too far behind at this stage coming into the braking area for Hislop, so as long as he's neat and tidy, the man from Worcester should still hang on to 5th position. Sebastiani, though, that little bit quicker through Hislops. Is he going to be a little bit quicker heading out now of Knickerbrook? And as we leave them to continue their battle, we pick back up on the battle for 2nd and 3rd place. George Line is really having to drive a very large and wide Dallara now to try and keep at bay Shane Kelly, who is looking one way, looking the other. Same occurs still with Mark Harrison and Sebastiani. There's still not been a shuffle in the order just as yet between those two. They're coming up towards the conclusion of another lap, so through Lodge Corner they'll go. Number 6 car of Mark Harrison still in 5th position. Jacopo Sebastiani, though, gets a little bit closer this time, heading over the start-finish line through Deer Leap. So Mark Harrison picking up the wetter part of the circuit, trying to dry the tyres off, protecting the inside line as well as they head through Old Hall Corner. As they're now safely out of Old Hall Corner, he's still having to stick his elbows out to try and keep at bay the Italian. Great squabble going on for 5th and 6th places. But as yet, the order has not changed, of course. This is the opportunity now for Sebastiani to pick back up the slipstream, the hole in the air that's being made by the car ahead. The difficult thing is the closer you get, when you get to the twiddly parts, there's plenty of those at Oulton Park, that's when you lose adhesion. As here is Shane Kelly, he's also looking to try and move himself up through the order, still running in third place, cannot get past George Line, however. So there's some fantastic fights going on throughout the course of the order. George Line still hanging on, albeit by his fingertips, to second position, but good driving, he's just not putting a wheel wrong. There is most certainly a definite dry line around all of the circuit now, and on wet tyres that is going to start to become a problem for drivers. As again, Huell Lloyd just dives for the wetter part of the circuit, tries to cool off his controlled tyres at the all run. Here comes George Line, still under pressure from Shane Kelly, who again is just making sure he's an annoyance, I think, more than anything to George Line, to try and get George looking in his mirrors one way or the other. And in wet conditions, a damp circuit, all you need is a quick snatch of a break, and that might be the mistake that Shane Kelly's looking for, to try and seize an opportunity to work his way through into second. He's not been able to do it as yet, but still George Line hanging on to the place. The Honda engine, Neil Brown Engineering tuned Dallara in the hands of the man from Leicester, still hanging on to second position despite the very, very best efforts of the University of Wolverhampton car in the hands of the 36-year-old Shane Kelly. So again, down Lakeside you can see Shane Kelly weaving from one side to the other. Some of that might be to cool the tyres, other parts of it will be certainly to try and distract the attention of George Line. But as yet, he's neat and tidy and concentrating on the road ahead. For Shane Kelly, well, time is running out. Laps are being ticked off all of the time. You can also see that the race leader, Huell Lloyd, the Welshman, is getting away, the man from Denbighshire, out of what is Britain's over Hilltop this time. Shane Kelly perhaps a little bit closer than he was on the lap prior. He picks up the toe and the slipstream of George Line, who again just checks his mirrors and turns his car neatly and tidily through his lots. Shane Kelly that little bit quicker though, and unfortunately it was right at the tight part of the circuit where he really wasn't given any opportunity to try and squeeze his way through. You can't really overtake through his lots because you've got Mika Brook coming up shortly afterwards, so he might have been on the gearbox of the car ahead, but there was nothing he could do to try and seize an opportunity. And you can see now our race leader, Huell Lloyd, the advantage he's built. It's the whole length of the straight, isn't it, between what is Lodge Corner and Druids. So the margin coming up all of the time. Well, George Line is certainly now, I would suggest, slower than Shane Kelly, but all he needs to do is just keep the car parked on the apexes of the corner, get good momentum coming off them, and it's going to make it very, very difficult for that championship leading car in the hands of Shane Kelly, the number 11 car, the blue car with its Dayglow flashes to it, to work his way through and past. And all of the time, of course, whilst George Line is concentrating on a little bit of defensive work, it's allowing the Welshman, our race leader, to pull away all of the time. Here is the squabble between Mark Harrison and Jacopo Sebastiani. It's still not resolved itself as yet, has it? It is still the red number 6 car in the hands of Harrison that's just ahead of Sebastiani, who's closer than ever this time, heading through Deer Leap. And as they head side by side over the start-finish line, is Sebastiani going to sweep around the outside? Very brave move by both, just giving each other enough room, and Sebastiani sweeps all the way around the outside of Mark Harrison, who gave him just enough room and goes through and takes the place away. So up into 5th goes Sebastiani, down to 6th goes Mark Harrison, and in 2nd place George Line is still under enormous attack and pressure from Shane Kelly. Doesn't matter where you look on circuit in the F3 Cup, there are battles being contended by almost everybody amongst the field, and George Line is one of those who has got his hands rather full, to say the absolute least, because Shane Kelly is not giving up. He knows still that his main championship rival coming into this weekend, Darryl Jones, who lies 2nd in the championship, is further down the road. But he also knows that Darryl Jones at this stage will be closing the gap. Darryl is currently running in 6th position, and Shane Kelly is there in 3rd place. So through and over the start-finish line, they're about to chalk another lap. And again, you can see just how much the circuit has dried out. Even the wetter parts of the circuit, the bits offline, only look damp now rather than wet. So the tyres are being asked quite a lot here at Oulton Park by all of these drivers who are dearly wanting to push on as much as they possibly can. And for Huell Lloyd, he's already safely through and about to conclude another lap. Here comes the battle still for 2nd and 3rd. George Line, number 10, number 11, Shane Kelly, the championship leader, sitting there in 3rd position. Out of Deer Leap, another lap concluded, and as they come over the start-finish line, Shane Kelly will pick up the toe, but again, unlike Jacopo Sebastiani, he's just not close enough. He's not going to get an opportunity through Old Hall Corner. He tries to get a better exit of the corner, though. That might give him an opportunity as they head down the avenue and in towards Cascades Corner, but again, great driving by George Line, the man from Leicester, just keeping the car positioned exactly where he needs. So it's becoming ever more frustrating, I suppose, for Shane Kelly. I'm sure he knows he's the quicker car. Again, he just dives over onto the wetter part of the circuit to try and cool those tyres, try and maybe get George Line to look in his mirrors as to where the car's jinked to. And these two are having a proper battle, aren't they? Like a couple of heavyweights boxers with their sleeves rolled up, slugging it out as to who's going to finish second and third in this race. And you can see that our race leader, Huell Lloyd, is already now well and truly out of shot. He's disappeared over Hilltop, which is where the pair vying for second and third are working their way now. And again, Shane Kelly looking one way, looking the other. George Line, he's not weaving round, he's just defending the line and then moves across to take as wide a sweep as he can in towards Hislop's corner. And time is running out here for Shane Kelly. Through Knickerbrook, you can see the tail end of Kelly's car sliding around as the tyres start to be asked several more questions again in these ever-drying conditions. Battle for 8th place going on. This is a good little fight that we haven't picked up on. This is Malcolm Scott fighting away with the number 2 machine. That's in the hands of the man from Oulton in Essex, Stuart Wiltshire, who's being run by Chris Dittman Racing, and Malcolm Scott is under huge pressure here. It's his teammate. They're both run by Chris Dittman's team. They're having a good little fight. And as they head over Hilltop, it looks as though it is still just Malcolm Scott that hangs on to the position from Stuart Wiltshire. So the two CDR run cars pretty much nose to tail as they head out of Knickerbrook. So the squabble between those two continues in a very similar way that it does for George Line and Shane Kelly at the front end of the field. Here comes Mark Harrison now. He's very much on his own now, having been passed by Jacopo Sebastiani a few laps ago. The man from Worcester has fallen away. He's not particularly fallen into the clutches of the car that currently runs behind him. That's the car that wraps up the top 6 at the moment, number 73, Darryl Jones. And as we look back, here then comes that squabble. Malcolm Scott, is he about to have his pocket picked by Stuart Wiltshire? He's very close, the two of them. Let's not forget these are both teammates, both run out of the same stable, Chris Dittman Racing. Malcolm Scott is just checking his mirrors. Stuart Wiltshire has the inside line, almost is able to work his way through, but Malcolm Scott having none of it. The man from Upminster hangs on to the position, that being 7th place, and Stuart Wiltshire is going to have to try and scratch his head and work out where else he might be given an opportunity to grab a position here as they turn their way out of Cascades and onto Lakeside once more. You can see just how dry the circuit is. Malcolm Scott is fully focused on the road ahead. And well, all of these cars running the Pirelli tyre are again in the hands of Huell Lloyd, who heads on to his last lap, just diving for the wet parts of the circuit. So he certainly knows how to conserve his tyres, Huell Lloyd. We've seen probably him more than anybody else diving for the wetter parts of the circuit. He's now on his final lap of the race, as is this squabble here still going on. This is Malcolm Scott still under pressure from Stuart Wiltshire, but the man from Malden has not made it through and ahead of the man from Upminster as yet. They're pretty much together, aren't they, as they head out of what is Knickerbrook and start to climb up Clay Hill. And then from there, you can see them turn through the left-hander and up towards Druids Corner as our race leader is well and truly now onto his last lap of the race. Here comes Malcolm Scott. It's Stuart Wiltshire this time going to try something. He jinks one way, jinks the other, and he's coming up the inside line. Very brave move as they head up towards Lodge Corner, and Stuart Wiltshire is able to go through, absolutely picks the pocket of Malcolm Scott, gains the place, and they are now heading on to what should be their final lap of the race as well. So it looks as though, well, Stuart Wiltshire, having just gained the place, he now has only got one single lap of Oulton Park to try and hang on to it, and a slight mistake by Malcolm Scott there at Old Hall Corner has made it all rather easier all of a sudden for Stuart Wiltshire, as our race leader is about to turn his way through Druids any moment now. Here he comes into sight, Huell Lloyd looking to try and do the double here in the MSVR Formula 3 Cup at Oulton Park. And as he heads onto the brakes, turns his way in towards the right-hander at Lodge Corner for the man from Derbyshire at the wheel of his self-prepared CF Racing Dallara F311. It's a double win for Huell Lloyd at Oulton Park. Wins round 1 and round 2 of the weekend here at Oulton Park in Cheshire. A double victory, maximum championship points, and he'll be very pleased indeed with his efforts over the course of what have been 2 very tricky races. Awfully wet for race number 1, drying conditions for race number 2. And as for Shane Kelly, he has disappeared somewhere by the look of things on the penultimate lap. He's just not come through to take the checkered flag, so not entirely sure where Shane Kelly's gone off, but he is not going to see that. The checkered flag here at Oulton Park. Confirmation of the results, Huell Lloyd claims the win, George Line in second with James Heffernan in third. Sebastiani, Harrison and Darryl Jones complete the top 6 with Stuart Wiltshire, Malcolm Scott, Robbie Watts and Tony Bishop completing the top 10. Let's hear from the winner on the podium.
Yeah, it was a good race really. Had a good start this time, not like the first race. It was question mark whether it was slicks, wets. I think most of us gambled on wets. I think one car tried slicks, but yeah, towards the end there, the track was really drying quite quickly, and yeah, it was nice to have another win. And yeah, it's always a pleasure around Oulton Park, regardless of any result. I think for any driver to race around here is fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that was the Oulton Park races that took place earlier on in the season. Coming into the final 3 races at Snetterton this weekend, Shane Kelly is just 2 points ahead of George Line in the championship with a further 44 points adrift. Stuart Wiltshire. It's all rather close, though, because Stuart Wiltshire in 3rd place doesn't have much between himself and Darryl Jones and Jacopo Sebastiani. It's going to be very, very close as we head back to Snetterton for live commentary shortly of the conclusion of F3 Cup in 2016.